Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. This right here is one of the most popular, most successful niche fragrances of all time, and also one of the most cloned of all time, Angel Share, which was followed up by this one, Angel Share Paradise, which is now one of the most commonly cloned fragrances out there, where basically every single Middle Eastern brand is coming out with their version right now. But Kilian didn't stop there. They've come out with this, Angel Share on the Rocks, which as of right this minute hasn't been cloned yet. But if I had to place a bet, I would wager that those brands out there, the Middle Eastern brands, are right now like, do it, clone it now. For now though, if you want Angel Share on the Rocks, you gotta buy Angel Share on the Rocks. The question is it worth the price? And that is what we're gonna talk about here today, because I dropped 275 bucks for this one right here. 50 mils. Is it as good as the OG? Is it as good as the Paradis? Well, let's see. It's a really bad rhyme. That's pretty cringy. Let's go ahead and kick things off by taking a look at the presentation of Angel Share on the Rocks, or if you've ever tried to type Angel Share into your cell phone, Angles Share, since apparently that makes more sense than Angel Share according to my iPhone. But let's forget about that though. Presentation time. Here is the box. As always, honestly, it looks pretty cheap. You have on the front the name of the house, the name of the fragrance, size and concentration. Eau de Parfum is the concentration. You have the Kilian K on top, nothing on the sides, nothing on the back. And then on the bottom, you have your ingredient info along with your batch code. The full batch code there, A5525141. Of course, opens up like so, and then your bottle sits right inside of here. How nice. As I said though, the box has always looked, at least in my opinion, pretty cheap when it comes to Angel Share and all the fragrances from Kilian that are in this style. Frankly, a lot of the clones, like your $25, $30 clone fragrances that smell similar to these, have nicer boxes for what that's worth. What is that worth? Oh, nothing, I guess. Oh. Unless you're just really into boxes, then it's worth something. We all have our own kinks. It's all fine, it's all good. And here we have the bottle. You have the name of the fragrance, name of the house right there on the front on that little plaque. And this time, the bottle is done in a frosted glass design. Cap remains the same as the original. You have the K on top, a little sticker on the bottom, and your badge code is actually etched into the glass, A55. The cap does click into place. You also have a K for Kilian on top of the atomizer. And you know what time it is. It's time to go ahead and share some sprays. So here we go. Nice. And while we're at it, why don't we just go ahead and spray these also. First the Angel Share, and then the Paradise. Now when it comes to retail pricing on the original Angel Share, it's the same as on the Rocks. For the 50 mil, it's $275. But the Paradise version, much more expensive, $385 for that flanker there. And you may be able to find these two over here at discounters for a lower price since they've been out for a while. This one though, where it's brand new, you're gonna have to pony up full retail essentially. At least for now. Now I'll have each one of these fragrances linked in the description down below in case you want to check them out down there. And also down below, I will have some codes that you can use to save money. Yeah, a whole bunch of different codes actually. So any of those websites that you see, you can use those codes to save yourself some money across those stores. So if you're looking for designers, niche, or clones, you're pretty much covered across any of those. All right. Fragrance time. Angel Share on the Rocks is way fresher, brighter, zingier, zestier off the top than either of the other two in the line so far. It has a sparkling burst of citrus when you first spray it on, so you've got lemon in there, you have grapefruit, a little bit of a bitter-ish orange vibe as well. And that's all sharpened up with this crisp isochord. It's a little bit aldehydic, but again, very fresh, bright, zingy, zesty, and lively. And it can kind of make you think of like citrus zest being placed over top of a chilled rocks glass. And that rocks glass vibe is going to come across because you can get this soft, boozy sweetness coming through from cognac. And that's going to tie it in, of course, with the entire Angel Share line, because cognac is one of the big things that it's known for, aside from cinnamon and sweetness and apple pie kind of vibes and raspberry if we're talking Paradise, but now we're getting sidetracked. So yeah, you do get that cognac here mixing together with that fizzy, icy citrus, but one thing you don't get as much of in On the Rocks is that cinnamon. Because with the original Angel Share, you get that sticky, sweet, warm, spicy, sexy scent profile that it's really well known for. you don't get as much of that coming across in On the Rocks, which is probably not a big surprise because the name is, of course, On the Rocks, and the way that it's presented is as a fresher take on the DNA. So the new version, you could think of it in the opening as being related to the original Angel Share, but instead now it is cooler, it's more stripped back, it's fresher, it's maybe a little bit more wearable as far as seasonality goes, but it maybe doesn't have quite the same attention-grabbing feel. You know, the way that this one hits, Angel Share, is just like this wallop of warm, spicy, sexy sweetness that people really are attracted to. This one strips a lot of that out or tones it down. And of course with Paradise over here, it's gonna be hitting you a little bit higher on the nose with the raspberry, a little bit more of that type of sweetness instead of a zesty freshness. Now as On the Rocks dries down, that iciness kind of melts away a little bit. And as that happens, the warmth in the fragrance starts to build up. So you get some tonka that comes out, you get some ambery facets that come out, and they kind of join with the cognac. It adds a little more body to the fragrance, a little more depth to the fragrance, and it does make it start to come a little bit closer to smelling like the original Angel Share. That being said, it is still not the same. A little bit of a dialed back kind of Angel Share, like if you took that syrupy feel, the overt spiciness from the original Angel Share, and you kind of reined it in. It's a little bit like that. You know, the cinnamon is noticeable in On the Rocks as you head through the mid, but it's more subtle when you compare it to its predecessor. So through the mid, it kind of feels like Angel Share On the Rocks is trying to reinterpret the original, trying to keep that DNA intact as it dries down, because in the opening, they're really different. Like in the opening, you're not gonna confuse these two at all, but as they dry, like I said, they get a little bit closer. So it's like they're trying to keep that DNA intact, but in a reinterpreted manner. So yeah, trying to make it cleaner, fresher, easier going, but maybe not quite as memorable. So there is that kind of trade-off. And that carries over into the dry down, where On the Rocks smells like a mellowed out Angel Share, essentially. The booziness lingers, that cognac, you can still pick it up. It carries through the fragrance in the opening, in the mid, into the dry down. So you still have that carrying through, you know, that Angel Share line, that DNA, it's still present, but the sweetness is toned down. So whereas in the original, get that vanilla, cinnamon, praline, that caramel kind of vibe, mixing together with the cognac, you know, just that overload, you know, where they really just went 11 out of 10. A lot of that's missing in the dry down of On the Rocks. Instead, it's a polished oak wood, like a gentle tonka, and a little bit of a residual creamy, citrusy-esque kind of sweetness that carries over into the dry down. So it ends up being far less decadent than the original Angel Share or Paradise, but it is, maybe you could say, a little more refined. Now, in terms of performance, On the Rocks underperforms the ones that came before it. Again, probably not a big surprise to you since this is the fresher version and all, but yeah, Paradise and the original Angel Share off my skin outperform On the Rocks by a little bit. That being said, the performance here was not bad for me. It projected well, lasted a good amount of time, but it is not as strong as these over here. So that's the performance, but what about the versatility? Well, I would say out of these three, this is the most versatile one. I think that you could realistically wear this year round if you wanted to. In terms of the perfect seasons, if there was such a thing, it would be spring and fall, but you could wear this during summer because of that opening being fresher, zingier, zestier, livelier. Even though it does warm up a bit as it dries down, it doesn't get as heavy as these, so you could pull it off during the summer with some stipulations. If you're in the middle of summer and it's crazy hot, maybe go for something else because again, as it dries down, it does warm up a little bit. I do think you could wear this in winter as well. And actually during winter, it'd be a really nice change of pace because it does warm up a bit as it dries down. You get some of that sweetness that comes out, but then in the opening, it's gonna come across almost icy when you spray it on. And that can smell really, really good when it's extremely cold outside. So again, I think as far as versatility goes, this one better than both of these. And you can wear this daytime or evening, either one. Really, I think it's kind of split 50-50. Could also work really well actually as a day to evening transition fragrance. That kind of thing you spray on at say 5 p.m. and you head out on the town, something like this could work really well. So with all that said, how does this one fare against the ones that have come before it? You could almost think of the original Angel Share as your spiced winter dessert cocktail, if that makes any sense. Really good for fall and winter. That type of fragrance that commands attention, especially during the evening, but then it does have that sticky, sweet tooth side to it. And of course that booziness, giving it a cocktail sort of flair. Paradis takes that sweetness and flips it on its head a little bit, still stays extremely sweet, but then has even more of a sugary aspect to it with the raspberry, but then an additional woodiness as the fragrance dries down, which brings it some balance. Also like $100 more, so yay. On the rocks though, compared to Angel Share, this one comes across more as your sunset aperitif. It's fresher, it's brighter, it's smoother, and while it does start to kind of converge with the original as it dries down, it takes a different path to get there. And I imagine this comparison will come up a bunch of times, but this is almost like what happened with Stronger With You and Stronger With You Freeze, even down to the kind of frozen bottle stylings and color schemes. Because both of these are doing essentially the same thing, taking a fragrance that's really well known, very popular, that's more warm, sweet, sexy, spicy, loud, and then going, well, what if we made that fresher, but really concentrated on the difference in the opening? And that's what they've done here. That's what they did here. Now to be clear, I'm not saying On the Rocks smells like Stronger With You Freeze, but I'm saying the idea is the same. Which may not be the greatest idea because Stronger With You Freeze actually failed and was discontinued, but maybe this time it'll work. At the end of the day, On the Rocks is a massively appealing, compliment-pulling type of scent, which is not a surprise because it is in the same style as the ones that came before it, which are also those things. It would be an excellent choice for somebody who wants something in the styling of Angel Share, but they want it to be more wearable, less sweet, more vibrant, and more seasonally flexible. Now that being said, at $275 for 50 mil, it is stupid expensive. And I don't think it's worth that price point considering what you can get out there, especially if we're talking discounters, or if you want to go even cheaper than that to cologne fragrances, things like that. $275 for 50 mil, really, really expensive, especially when you consider that this is going to underperform these fragrances as far as projection, longevity goes. But if you don't care about price, if that doesn't come into the equation at all, then you can get a ton of use out of this. And I actually think the opening smells fantastic. I really, really like the opening here. As it dries down, it smells good, it smells pleasant, but it doesn't do as much for me in the mid and dry down. Because at that point, I would prefer the original Angel Share. I think it just has a little more going on when you do hit that point in the fragrance's lifespan. But that's because I enjoy that additional punch of sweetness, of praline, vanilla, all that stuff coming through. If you want something, like I said, more versatile, more wearable, this is more that than this. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.